Okay, here's the Myotron from the early 90s, early to mid 90s. Here's this Myotron. They marketed this thing as really not a stun gun. It's kind of odd. They used all the goofy infomercials, which are classical, almost hilarious. Sure looks like a stun gun, doesn't it? Myotron by Aerodine. This is the Myotron Venus. Ariane. Anyways, this is a response. Somebody had asked what's it powered by. Well, basically it's got some lithium batteries in here, and these lithium are special lithiums that are just an OEM version that they connect together. They're DL2/3A, so the 2/3 A size OEM lithiums. It's got a little connector on here. There's the high voltage coils on this end, and this is the output. So basically this front here's got a big coil wound up on there, and underneath here this is the safety. You turn it on, hit the button, and the high voltage switcher is under here. There's also a transformer in here too. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I thought this didn't work, and I was just playing around with it. It wouldn't spark because it hasn't been used forever. And actually now it will tend to, has a little bit of, try to see if it works. It's a little bit wimpy. A minute or two ago it wasn't working. That's why I took the battery out and I plugged it back in again. So it's strange. I don't know if it's just a bad connection, corrosion. Like it's really not putting out. These batteries have never been replaced. They might be goofing up the audio. Used to jump about a half of an inch here. What I need to do is, let's go ahead and put that'll work. That's a lining sphere. Let's get the free out here in free air and see what we can do. Ooh, shit, I just got shocked. A little bit. The prongs here in the front up here are to limit the voltage. So if you're not going to go through something, you don't want to have the voltage wide open on the coil, which is just what it does, but it's really hard on the coil. I want to say back in the 90s when I did this, it would almost go 3/4 of an inch. So I really need to put this on a power supply and see if this is really holding up to 9 volts or not. Or maybe this thing is just not what it used to be. Excuse me. Anyways, when you buy this thing, it came with this little warning here saying that this was not a toy. And then you had the screwdriver, and I want to say that they had a deal where you had to plug this in just so if some guy got this, you had to read the instructions and then you had to plug this in. But I think they purposely had the cell unplugged so somebody just didn't pick this thing up and use it. Kind of to train you how to use it. This is really just a stun gun. I don't know, infomercial is totally bizarre from the 90s. I had this thing because one consulting firm I was at, they actually bought this thing, and I went and did some tests with it, not on some people, but just on the voltage, and then ended up acquiring it because we were going to throw it out. This is the most hokey thing on here. This thing that comes out for the key ring here is the most hocus thing that goes on here. Doesn't really want to go in there. The spring steel's not the best. But that's it. That's the Myotron. So if I remember correctly, when I got this unit, it came with this little screwdriver. And I think you had to go undo where the battery is and then plug the unit in, the battery, just so it would work. I don't know if they did that just so you'd know where the battery pack is. These battery packs are actually available online. I think it's called Custom 138 or something. I'll have to go look that up. They list it as a 1.2 ampere hour 12 volt battery, but this has really got 3 cells on here. And I measure about 9 volts, but I'm not sure what the open circuits on these are supposed to be. 3 to 3.6 nominal. I've always remembered it's around 4. So 4 times 3 is 12, so I may be only operating on one of these, may be already goofed up here after 15 or more years, 18 years, whatever. But now if you really want to see something cool besides the Myotron, I've already got some other videos here. Well, this is the Violux. Now the Violux here, this comes from the 1920s. It's not as practical because you have to have a cord on it, of course. But that's really not for self-protection. That's actually for checking light bulbs. So if you take something here, put the sphere here. Let's get a good shadow here. Turn the Violux on. This might screw up the audio. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this on to turn it on. You get a pretty good gap right there. That'll jump about an inch, depending on the sharpness of the object. Since this is a sharp tip here, the air will break down fairly easy. So if you go from one sharp tip to another sharp tip, you can draw a larger arc. If you go to a spherical surface, like here, the voltage has to be higher. So what happens, the radius of curvature of this point where it emits from and what it jumps to, if they're very sharp, like if I had this jumping to the pair of scissors like this, you would go through and it's easy to jump. So if I go through here and have it jump like this, that'll jump real easy. Now in measuring high voltage, what they sometimes do is you have, this is not a full sphere, but if you have 2 spheres and you bring them close to each other, you measure the gap, and you also have the radius of the spheres. You can measure, calculate the voltage. There's a formula online. And what you've got is you've got 2 spheres in space. The gap, you vary the gap, and that's what you can figure out what the voltage is. But that's the Violux there for checking bulbs. And here's the old Myotron. The infomercial on this is really a hoot. And this will knock you on your butt, but I'm not really sure how much better this is from a stupid stun gun you get here in the deep south from a gun show or something, you know. They're all over the place. So these things were marketed in the, I want to say the early 90s to mid 90s on TV, and this is a response to that video showing the inside, coils up front. These are the breakdown plates on the side here that'll limit the voltage in open air, so it's going to jump. If you took these off, what'll happen, the voltage will go so high you end up jumping across the winding inside, and you tend to just tear the crap out of the insulation. Like on this unit over here, if I just run this thing wide open so it's got nothing to jump to, what'll happen is after a few minutes the inside windings of this thing here will end up breaking down, and I gotta let it cool down. So kind of these fun toys to play with. So I may have to go ahead and pierce this battery and check from cell to cell on there, see what I've got. Yeah, I just got through measuring the lithium battery. They all measure about 2.9 volts, so these are kind of a little bit on the low side, but still sparks. This is what they call a custom. There's one on the internet, I think, called a custom 183. It might be, it's for the Myotron, but I'm not sure if it's for this exact model. Probably is. They want an arm and a leg, like 38 bucks for that, which is kind of bizarre because you can buy the batteries off eBay for, I want to say, around $9 a piece. So that's probably okay though, because you got 9 times 3 is 27, and then you got to solder the tabs on. Actually, these are welded on. This is a little pack with this thing, so figuring out everything. Holy smokes. You can smell ozone, kind of cool. The molding on this looks kind of goofy. So a bunch of questions people ask about how long these things will run. And I've played with this thing a long time, but I've never really, I just took the battery off this thing a little while ago. It's very odd because it didn't work. So I undid the battery and started to peel on them, and then I plugged it back in. So it might have been the connector just got goofy or just decided to resurrect itself. What's funny, they say in the claims of this thing that it'll go through an inch of clothing. Now, maybe if you've got something that's puffy clothing and you smash it down, so you go through, you know, let's go through bubble wrap here. The attacker's got bubble wrap on, you know. Ooh, it's not zapping. Ooh, I might have an intermittent failure there. See, that's not good. See, this is why a lot of this is bullshit. To be crude, let's say the attacker had his body was just like this. This is solid steel. This is a tooling thing here for a alignment telescope. Let's say that your arm was like that. Now, I'm not going to try this thing on my darn arm. Then you put just a little bit of bubble wrap and hold this thing up here and go zap it. It's not zapping through. It's not zapping through these points. Yeah, you can argue the guy's arm isn't like that. Well, how about, I don't know, put a stapler on here. Now it's going through it a little bit. Damn, it's got kicked by it a little bit. So I don't know. I've been hesitant to try this thing on me. I did that years ago. Knocked me on my butt, but that was 18 years ago. I'm not really daring to try it at this thing. Welcome any comments. I don't know if any of this is probably just the same. You'd have to have a model to see how strong this is, but it looks just like a regular stun gun, what it is. But the infomercial on the old things are kind of a hoot. They were on late night TV in California years ago and around the country. But that's the Myotron with its original battery, and it still works as seen on TV. Warning, this device is not a toy. Yeah, this thing came They must have been paranoid of this thing with the security or something, or liability, because they had this thing with the screwdriver, I remember, in a bag, and you had to go through and undo this and plug it in. And the screwdriver was with the thing, so you had to open the bag to read the instructions to get the screwdriver out. Kind of bizarre. I forgot all about it. Used another screwdriver over here to go ahead and take this apart, and then I noticed the screwdriver down there. Forgot all about it, but that's how stuff goes. This Myotron was bought in either the mid-90s to early 90s. I think it was probably around 93 was what I remember. 19 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. Got this as a place I was consulting for. Owner was excited about buying one. I think we bought 2 of them, and then I got to play around with this thing, and they gave it to me, whatever, but I played around with this thing. We actually had this thing at one time hooked up to a power supply, and we're measuring it, just playing with it, but I forgot all about this thing and saw it in a box. It's been there for the last 12 years, and then Googled it, found a YouTube on it, and I figured, well, I might as well show a YouTube of the Myotron, at least what the inside is, because I saw somebody had a question about the batteries.